Hey there, Heather. Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome you back to another Cutter Top 10 video and wearing the Arkansas shirt because guess what? We are going to be doing some stuff on the University of Arkansas. Well, a lot of college stuff, but we are going to look at the top 10 college football bowl games of all time. Because, bowl games are more important than regular season games in a sense. So we have 10 great ones for you. And unfortunately, Arkansas did not make any of the top 10s. If I were to put an Arkansas entry in, I would say the 1978 Orange Bowl against Oklahoma, in which Arkansas lost their leading rusher because he broke some dorm rules, and two other key Arkansas players actually walked out in solidarity. And basically, Lou Holtz had only did not have any of his main guys, and Oklahoma was looking to win the 1978, 77-78 national title. But unfortunately for them, Arkansas somehow pulled up a 34-8 win, shocking Oklahoma and giving Notre Dame, I believe, the championship, right? Or was it Texas? No, it was Notre Dame because they took down Texas. Man, that 1978 finale was just crazy. But that's it. All right, number 10 is Nebraska-Oklahoma Orange Bowl and all that. But yeah, the Orange Bowl was huge and all that. Nebraska and Oklahoma on the final week of the season had to play the game of the century, if you will, in 1971, in which they spotted the big matchup on ABC on the Friday after Thanksgiving. But anyway, the 72 Orange Bowl happened, and Nebraska took on Alabama and crushed them to be undefeated and win the national championship. The 71 squad was just as powerful as the 95 national champions were. But the fact of the matter was that, Nebraska knew what to do, and they had Johnny the Jet Rogers. Anyway, number 9 is the 2017 Rose Bowl between USC and Penn State. This was a huge one. After the brouhaha of the 2016 Rose Bowl, in which Stanford crushed Iowa into fine powder with a great first half, in which Christian McCaffrey scored within 12 seconds, they needed a better Rose Bowl. And they did. SC took on Penn State. It was big. You had Trace McSorley versus Sam Darnold, and you had two great schools going after each other, and in the Pac-10, Big Ten vein, if you will. It was a thriller. Penn State had a 14-point lead, but SC touched a pair of touchdowns to tie the game. Penn State had a chance to go for the win, but Trace McSorley went a little too much sicko mode. He threw a near interception in the on second down, and then on third down, he went to the well one too many times, and yes, he picked it off. It set up a 45-yard game-winning field goal as time expired, making it a 52-49 score. And at that time, it was the highest-scoring Rose Bowl in history. You rarely see a college football game, or even a bowl game for that matter, hit 100 points. Number 8 is the 2005 Orange Bowl between USC and Oklahoma. This was one of the biggest moments around and all that. There was a dogfight between USC, Oklahoma, and Auburn to be named who should be number 1 and who should be in the title game. Auburn getting badmouthed and basically blasted out of there. So SC would take on Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl, but SC won the game 55-19. It was one heck of a game and all that. And so SC win their first national title in a while. They almost went back-to-back, but 2006 happened. They had Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush still around. And yes, this actually was a scene. Everyone remembers about the Ashley Simpson debacle from Saturday Night Live in late 2004. It didn't help that she would be headlining halftime show in the Orange Bowl, and basically she sucked, and the fans let her forget it. Not let her forget about it. Number 7 is the 1963 Rose Bowl between SC and Wisconsin. This was dramatic. Wisconsin looking good, SC looking good, and this would be the first time in a bowl game that number 1 would take on number 2. Because, bowl game stuff, in the 60s compared to the 2020s is much different. Well, of course, take away the 12-team CFB playoff for a while. CFB. But the fact is that, the Big Ten champion was doomed to face the Pac-10 champion at every Rose Bowl, and SC would take on Wisconsin. This was one heck of a Rose Bowl for SC in Wisconsin. Well, Wisconsin's quarterback had nearly 430 yards of passing, which actually set a Rose Bowl record for the longest time. And USC did their job, winning the game 42-37. So it was dramatic swings and all that. But yeah, this was one for the record books. Number 6 is another Rose Bowl. This time it's the 2018 Rose Bowl between Georgia and Oklahoma. So the 2017 Rose Bowl was dramatic. Wait till 2018 comes around and Georgia took on Oklahoma. Now you'll be thinking, wait a minute, that's a Big 12 team against an SEC team. Well, 2018 was the year that the college football playoff, the 4-team format, would actually be played at the Rose Bowl. Like, every 3 years, like the major bowls would tackle each other to try to get in as semifinals and all that. 6 bowls would rotate the semifinals. The Rose Bowl was made that. 2015, the first CFP semifinal happened, and Oregon crushed Florida State 59-20, even though that Jameis Winston was trying to do his best. So anyhow, Georgia and Oklahoma battled each other. You had yourself, I can't remember Georgia's quarterback. But anyway, Oklahoma had Baker Mayfield. Georgia had number 11. Can't remember his name. Now, Murray, or was it? It was Murray, right? Yeah, the Murray was the quarterback. But yeah, it was all up to the 3-headed horse of Georgia running back. Nick Chubb, Sonny Michel, and Hockey Pucks. I can't remember the third name off the top of my head. But yeah, the 2018 Rose Bowl was intense and all that. Baker Mayfield even caught a touchdown at the end of the first half. It was a battle within itself. It was 45-45 after regulation, so they had to go to overtime. Both teams would kick a field goal. Oklahoma actually had a field goal attempt in the second overtime, but got it partially blocked. So all Georgia needed was a field goal to win the game and go home to Atlanta for the national championship game. Well, they didn't get the field goal. They got the touchdown. Sonny Michel proving how good he was, how valuable he was, and how happy I was when New England picked him up in the draft. Did his job, and Georgia won 54-48 in double overtime, going to the national title game against, which would be Bama, and unfortunately Georgia would lose on 2nd and 26. Tagovailoa's pass into the end zone for a touchdown. So it was good. Number 5 was the 3 plays that shocked the world game between Boise State and Oklahoma. This was a big game. You see like a non-powerhouse school like Boise State taking on a powerhouse like Oklahoma. Adrian Peterson was on the squad at Oklahoma and their star running back. And the fact that his father got out of prison to see him play was big. Boise State was coming from Idaho. You had Jared Sabransky, Ian Johnson, and a few other things. And Boise State stunned Oklahoma by playing with the big boys. Oklahoma had a pick 6, which seemingly ended the game, but not so fast. Under a minute left, Sabransky led the team. And then it was a 4th and 18. And of course, Tom Brenneman's call on Fox was huge. Sabransky's legs, catch James, the lateral to the corner of the end zone. Can you believe that? And that was the Statue of Liberty play in which James, no, sorry, that was not Statue of Liberty. What am I thinking? It was a trick play, 4th and 18, the lateral to the corner of the end zone. And that did it. Oklahoma did score a touchdown on Adrian Peterson's run. And then Boise on 4th and 5, Peretta, the tight end, actually made the throw in the end zone touchdown with Sabransky in motion. Boise decided to go for 2 to take down Oklahoma, or die trying, if you will. And then came the Statue of Liberty, which Sabransky faked a quick hitch to the right-hand side, but had the ball behind his back and Ian Johnson ran the ball into the end zone, touchdown. Boise State beats Oklahoma, one of the best upsets of all time, and the prelude to the 2007 season, which was full of upsets and all that. And it also helped that Ian Johnson proposed to Boise State's head cheerleader during the postgame. Number 4 is the 2003 Fiesta Bowl between Ohio State and Miami. It is a very classic game, for the national championship, 1 versus 2. Ohio State, a lot of people thought were lucky just to be undefeated and win the trip to the national title game and all that. They had a few close calls, including against Purdue when they went for a gutsy pass with a minute and a half left. Miami were the defending national champs, crushing Nebraska in the Rose Bowl and making things happen. So they were hoping to win in Arizona. And it was close, though. It was 24-24. Oh, sorry. It was 17-17 at the end of the regulation. And then in overtime, Miami scored a touchdown to make it 24-17. And then Ohio State seemingly got stopped on 4th and 5. It was over. This was done. Miami were in the national champs for the second straight year. Hold on, a flag on the play. And a pass interference call. Not only was it ticky-tacky, but the fact is that the flag was thrown several seconds after the last play. And basically, everyone thought it was over. Everyone was rushing the field. Ohio State would go on to score a touchdown in the second overtime. Miami did not. Both running backs, Maurice Clarett and Willis McGahee, were hurt in that thing. Number 3 is the Chicken Soup Bowl, 1979 Cotton Bowl, Notre Dame, Houston. Now, the whole soup thing with Joe Montana was big enough, but the fact of the matter was that, unbeknownst to a lot of people, this game was actually played in what was called an ice storm in Dallas. You're thinking, Dallas can't have ice storms. They live in Texas. Oh boy, howdy, you are wrong. There was a snowstorm in Houston a few years ago, but yeah, there was an ice storm at the Dallas Cotton Bowl Stadium. And many people didn't want to come to Dallas in near freezing conditions. And this is in Fahrenheit, not Celsius. So, yeah, a lot of fans, CBS with Lindsey Nelson and Paul Hornung would call the game Notre Dame, Houston. Houston was up 34-12. Joe Montana, yes, that Joe Montana, was playing for Notre Dame. This was his senior season, and he actually ended up having hypothermia and having to come out of the game. Everyone thought Houston was going to win. The SWC champion was going to crush the mighty Notre Dame Fighting Irish. There were a lot of ways to try to get Joe Montana hydrated and all that. Remember, this is 1979. It's not as big as 2025 medicine. But a doctor actually had a chicken soup packet that his kids gave him for Christmas, and he gave it to Joe Montana, and he slurped it up and then came rushing through, and Notre Dame ended up winning the game. It was a last-second play by Montana to Chris Hines. Unfortunately, the lack of camera angles, and the fact that, this is 1979 technology, we didn't know if Haynes was actually out of the end zone when he made out of the side of the end zone, but allegedly he kept their foot in. Notre Dame actually were penalized on the extra point, even though they had scored the extra point. But then Joe Eunice came back on the field and kicked the second extra point. Notre Dame wins 35-34. It was just shocking. What's even more so is the lack of, foresight by many NFL teams. Montana went in the 4th round to the San Francisco 49ers, and then he led them to a massive comeback over the Saints the next year in the 1980 season, and the rest was fucking history. Number 2 is the 1984 Orange Bowl between Miami and Nebraska. This was huge. Nebraska were heavy favorites to win the game in Miami, even though that the Orange Bowl was played at Miami as Orange Bowl Stadium. Miami didn't seem like they should have been in the final and all that. And no, this was not the season in which BYU won the national championship, because that was the next season. But anyway, yeah, Nebraska put everyone away. Multiple games with 50-plus points. That's impressive. Miami were up against it. And worst of all, Nebraska scored on what they called the fumble Ruski, which Dean Steinkuhler managed to pick up a ball which was purposely fumbled. I think they banned that soon. But anyway, Nebraska looked good. Miami actually played hard, and Miami was up by 6 late. No, up by 7 late, and then Nebraska, Turner Gill flipping it to Jeff Smith, not Mike Rozier, but Jeff Smith in the end zone. And he flipped it in the end zone touchdown, and the game was tied at, it was 31-30. Nebraska decided to go for two instead of going for the extra point. Because if they went for the extra point, it would have been a tie. And ties were not settled in college football until 1996. So anyway, Nebraska would have had the national title game easily, but they decided to go for two, and it was batted away. And Miami won the national title game, making them stars of the '80s and very much hated. Nebraska slipped off a little bit, but number one by far, and you probably figured this was it, was the Rose Bowl between the Texas Longhorns and the USC Trojans. This was what bowl games were dreams are made of in 2006. It was the Rose Bowl, the oldest one, and the granddaddy of them all. So you knew, so you knew that this was going to happen for all the right reasons. But the fact of the matter is that, there were a lot of things that happened and all that during the game. USC was going to try to go for back-to-back titles. And Texas was a pretty plucky team that made some big moves. I actually predicted Texas to beat USC because of the simple fact that, somehow in some way USC is going to fall, and what better team than to fall? It would be Texas and all that. Both teams had some terrible plays and all that. But USC made a boo-boo going for fourth down and 2 at their own 40-yard line, which would have, if they had punted, that would have given Texas a lot of problems. But they decided to go for it. And stupidly enough, it didn't work out so well. So that's what happened. And then 4th and 5, the national title on the line, as Keith Jackson said. He scampered to the corner of the end zone with 19 seconds left. Texas wins 41-38. The 34-game winning streak has been denied, and that is the way it goes. So Texas USC was just great. You see Vince Young versus Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush versus, I can't remember Texas's running back, but it was just tit for tat, spit for spat. It was just improving everything. So, that's the way it goes. And, well, Texas beat USC, ruined Bush and Leinart's hopes and all that. Of course, Reggie Bush would lose the Heisman Trophy and the national title to the scandal involving him. But the NCAA did screw up their investigations and all that. And then by 2024, it was decided that Reggie Bush can keep his Heisman Trophy winner, I think. So anyway, yeah, Texas USC. Can't beat that in a bowl game. Anyway, I'm going to do.